been 6 months since the death of Harry Dunn, the teenager who was killed in a motorcycle accident. But despite the time that has passed away, his family say they are yet to find closure by seeing the driver accused of killing brought to justice.
Well, Harry's mother, Charlotte Charles, is here with us today alongside their family lawyer, Radd Seiger.
You're more confident than ever that Ms Sacoolas will end up in this country, and you're also quite angry. Why?
Confident because I wouldn't have started this campaign if I didn't know what the eventual outcome was going to be. I simply can't tell you when, but it is never going to be acceptable for an American, whoever they are, to come over to this country, take the life of a precious young member of our community, and then get on the next plane back home. In terms of anger, we are, it's 6 months, Eamonn. It's 6 months, and you cannot imagine the pain that this family are going through. She's very dignified, and she won't tell you, how difficult it is, but I can see it as their neighbour and friend every single day. And it's time. It's enough.
Yeah, we were just talking, Charlotte, before we came on and saying 6 months, and it probably feels like 6 minutes with that dreadful news. How are you and the family doing? How's Niall, his twin brother?
Niall's holding his own, like us, up and down. He's a bit calmer at the moment. I think he can see, as well as we can, that, everything we're doing is going in the right direction. He knows that we're not going to give up on his brother or to get justice for him.
And how are you finding the strength to do that? I mean, have you even had time to grieve yet?
No, I have started my counselling. I think that is helping. It's starting to help now. And I think that helps to bring a little bit of a close each week on the previous 6 days that have gone before us. But in terms of really deeply grieving, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. We're too busy.
Well, you made Harry a promise, didn't you?
Yes.
That you would not rest until...
Yeah, and that promise is on your mind 24 hours a day. And it doesn't matter what it costs. I'll probably need a lot of therapy down the road. The bit that I'm having at the moment is probably not going to be enough, but it doesn't matter what it costs. That promise will be carried out.
The truth, obviously, is part of all of that, Radd. As a lawyer, tell me about Anne Sacoolas. Initially, the Foreign Office say she was notified to the UK government as a spouse with no official role. Yet I'm reading in the papers this week that she is an employee of the CIA.
So that's the latest development, that she's now been confirmed as a senior CIA officer herself, which changes things a little bit. It doesn't matter to the extent that she still has to come back. But I think we can now begin to understand why the U.S. government have been so insistent on taking her back and protecting her. But it is never going to be acceptable, Eamonn, for any of us who live around these bases, or frankly, any of you who live in London, there are diplomats all over here, to just shrug our shoulders when the worst happens and walk on by. Look, the legal position is complicated, but the whole diplomatic immunity thing is a complete red herring. As Charlotte will tell you, the Vienna Convention, which governs these things, was implemented to keep these diplomats safe from harm in hotspot countries, not a get-out-of-jail-free card. And listen, we say that every day, and I'm a little concerned that the governments on both sides of the Atlantic aren't really hearing that message.
But I think the last time we spoke to you, Charlotte, did you not have a meeting coming up with Dominic Raab?
Yes.
So where are you at now with the government in terms of their help and the Foreign Office? Have they said they'll help you? Or is everybody just saying, well, we'll see what happens, and you're not actually getting anywhere? When
we saw you last, we were feeling quite supported by the government. We had what we thought was a good, substantial meeting with Dominic Raab and his aides. But Tim asked him that day exactly what Anne Sacoolas' role was. And they said to us that she is or was a government official. Well, that could cover a whole range of jobs within the government. I feel that he had the opportunity to tell us there and then what her job role was or still is. And he chose not to, so we're angry. And
Radd, who would have made the decision to allow her to leave the country?
Ruth, perfect question. I don't have the answer to that today, and we are calling for that sort of information. I have a very grave concern, as do the family, that the UK government were involved in her departure. I don't know that they were there at the airport waving her off, but that's how the family feel. It's the perfect question. Who was involved in allowing this woman to leave? And You know, I'm calling for a public inquiry. I'm calling for a parliamentary inquiry because we all want to know the answer to that. It's disgraceful that 6 months on, we don't know what happened.
Radd, is there any evidence to suggest what happened outside RAF Crichton would happen outside other American bases? In other words, this idea of that people aren't frequented with what side of the road to drive on.
Eamonn, I'm sorry to say that Harry was just the latest in a long line of people who have suffered serious injury or worse at the hands of American drivers outside these bases. We've been approached by dozens and dozens of people who have suffered. You know, it's got to stop. It's got to change. And this family are amazing because one of the things that they want to do is make sure that this never happens to another family again. But why are we here on your show calling for improvements to road safety? Where are the government calling? You know, they're just absent on this issue, and it's really important that this never happens again.
So what happens next? Where do you go from here?
Well, we've called for that public inquiry. Labour are backing us with that as well. Emily Thornberry's been really supportive of us all the way through, right from the beginning. We've met with her and we just keep pushing to get the truth. You know, we want to know the exact timeline. We want to know who allowed her to leave, why they allowed her to leave. You know, she was clearly a flight risk. We're angry and we want to know.
Ultimately, you want her back in this country.
Absolutely.
To be in court.
Definitely.
And
that was our #1 goal. It was the promise to Harry that we would get that justice. But of course, it's become so much bigger than that now. There's so much more that we're working on to create the legacy for Harry.
And between all this, Charlotte, this fight, this promise that you made to your son, how do you get through every day? How do you manage the day-to-day things when you wake up in the morning and you might have a meeting with a minister or all the things you would never... Yeah.
Those
never wanted to be in this position, of
no.
course, but how are you dealing with the loss of your son and doing the fight for justice for him?
I don't think we're really dealing with it at the moment. You know, yes, the therapy is helping, but we are so busy and the easy parts are being told when our meetings are going to be, what time we need you here, what time your car's going to arrive, what time you guys want it.
It's a focus for you.
It's focus, it's something that we don't have to think of. So I didn't have to think this morning, what time have I got to be at the train station? So everything that we're doing, the Harry work, as we call it, is the easy part because it's governed for us to a certain degree. It's the things that used to be normal that are never going to be normal again. They're the hard parts. You know, I'm only just being able to get through doing my supermarket shop. I've spent the last 5-6 months going into supermarkets, walking back out. More so over the last few months, you know, you lose your train of thought. You see Harry's favourite cereal and Harry's favourite sweets, and there's no point in buying them. They're the hard parts. This is the easy part.
They're heroes.
Everyday life is hard.
They're heroes.
Radd, you've also lost Sacoolas, surely, whilst the Trump administration is in power. We have another election this year. Surely, while Donald Trump is president, this is less likely to happen.
Eamonn, we're speculating, of course. We don't know what Donald Trump is going to do on any given day. He may wake up tomorrow morning and say he's had enough of this and send her back. Who knows? I think it's sensible for this family to plan for the long term. You're absolutely right. But you know, if that's what we have to do, wait for 4.5 years until he's gone, until a reasonable president comes in and makes the right decision, that's fine. But that doesn't mean we're going to let up. We're going to hammer this every single day until she's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Determined as ever.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
That never wavers.
No. Well, listen, love to the rest of the family.
Thank you.
And good to see you again.
Thank you very much.